Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into our first special edition, our first special episode of Area Stat Leaders, brought to you by Spitzer Motors of Mansfield, located on West 4th Street in Ontario. Go check them out. Check out their inventory today. I'm Hayden Gray, joined by Travis Big League Berardi, and exciting stuff. We didn't have playoff stat leaders last year.
Playoffs? You talk about playoffs? Yeah, playoffs. We had just about everybody in there, so why not do a top 10? Yeah. So what we're going to do this week is the top 10 for the week. Next week, our final one, we'll do the top 10 for next week as well. So it's not going to be combined because some of these players that make it, sorrowfully, did not make it to the next round, but we want to just show off the top 10 performers each week in the first and second rounds. Sorry for taking that away from you. Probably were just about to explain that, but that's how we're going to do it this week because, hey, there were a lot of great performances in week one of the playoffs.
Yeah, there sure were, and we want to make sure that, even if you got eliminated, you get the respect you deserve for round one. So we're going to start off how we traditionally do with our passing performances from week 11, and kicking things off at number 10. We have Mason Wolf of West Holmes. Obviously, West Holmes cruised to a nice victory in round one over Shelby, and Mason Wolf didn't even have to put up as big a numbers as he's used to, but they got a huge victory over Shelby and will advance to the second round.
He only needed 8 passes to get 3 touchdowns and 162 yards. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and they scored all their points in the first half against Shelby. And we'll see. There might be a running back also in here that helped out as well. But West Holmes, as expected, just rolled on and only in one half of work. So that's going to be big for the Knights moving forward, that they only needed to get only a half of play in there and they got a little rest.
That's for sure. At number 8 is going to be a Tiger, Blake Foose. A phenomenal year for him, but obviously a little bit of struggle in that round one game. They did have to play a pretty tough opponent, but an honorable season for Mr. Foose.
Yeah, 167 yards passing, 12 of 18, another pretty accurate night as well. 67%, if I am correct on the math there, and a touchdown passing, but a great season for Seneca. The Cardiac Tigers, as we said at one point of the year.
Yeah. At number 8 is going to be one of the few KMAC teams advancing past round one. It's going to be Matt Sprang of Loudonville. They had a nice round one victory, and they'll be one of the teams to represent the KMAC moving forward. Another team from the KMAC Conference, too, moving forward is the Danville Blue Devils, and Walker Weckesser, a guy that I believe joined our list during the regular season, had some ups and downs, but had a nice evening. Another guy who put up 5 scores on 9 passes.
Yeah, and you'll see some of these quarterbacks on teams that run the ball a lot, but hey, it's the playoffs. You do what you need to do. Big one coming up. We'll have it hopefully for you live and free down Danville taking on Hillsdale. That should be a fun one. I'll be down there for the call. But Walker Weckesser, and then got Max Payne, Caden Calliope as well, or Calliope, my apologies. But great offensive attack that Danville has, and they're looking like those teams that in the early to mid 2000s that would just run to the regional championship almost every year.
Coming in at number 6 is Harry Schultz of Tiffin Calvert. Didn't have a touchdown on the night, but almost 50% passing for close to 200 yards, so a decent round one performance for him. And then at number 5 is Mansfield Senior's own Duke Reese, who's really been coming into his own and hitting his stride at the right time.
Should call him Big Play Reese, because it seems like every week he hits receivers for the big touchdown at least once or twice, and 194 yards on this one, 13 and 25. And you're right, he has really matured as the season's gone on, and he's peaking at the right time as the TY Tigers get one more home game thanks to an upset. They'll take on Defiance on Friday night in a game you can also see live and free on the OH Report. Can the TY Tigers get to the third round? We'll find out on Friday.
Coming in at number 4 is a team that doesn't have a chance to continue competing, but finishing off where he did on our regular season leaders, Braden DeVito, the phenomenal freshman. So a tough game, obviously, against West Holmes, but I think a quarterback that they're happy to have found this season and continue to develop moving forward into the coming years.
Yeah, they had a really tough matchup against West Holmes in that first round matchup, but a couple plays, if they would have went to whip its way, they would have made this probably a game going into the half, but it just wasn't their night. However, DeVito still close to 200 yards passing against that West Holmes defense. It's pretty darn good for the freshman.
And now on to our top three. At number 3 is the gunslinger, Hayden Holman. Obviously, he has just been that quarterback in the N10 this year, putting up monster numbers, and it was just another night like we were accustomed to seeing him through the first 10 weeks.
Yeah, it was one heck of a shootout down there in the Valley, back and forth. Skoog and Holman both putting up big numbers. Clear Fork the early lead, but Holman once again leading his team back before Clear Fork eventually would pull away and get the victory. But that was a great performance under the lights in the Valley on the OH Report with our main crew. Holman, well done, son. That was a great effort you put forth for your Rams.
And speaking of the victorious team, Clear Fork, Victor Skoog cashing in at number 2, and we knew he could pass the ball, but we haven't seen him on our passing list this year. Almost 300 yards for Victor Skoog last week.
Big play, Skoog. There's a couple. He had a 90-yard touchdown pass, I believe a 37-yard touchdown pass. He also had some rushing as well, as you'll see in the rushing leaders coming up, but a very complete effort that Clear Fork needed. They needed all of them. Like I said, Holman and company came to play in another shootout that the Clear Fork Colts were able to be victorious. Can they bring that high-powered offense up to Elyria for round 2? We'll just have to find that out. Again, live and free on the OH Report.
And then our number 1 passing performance of round 1 of the playoffs was Ashland's Nathan Bernard. Now, he's a member of the class of 2026 for the Arrows, but putting up big numbers, was out a lot of this year with injury, but obvious to see why he's the guy to be at the helm for the Arrows.
Yeah, he put up some yards early on in the season as well for the Ashland Arrows, and that's a good effort against Toledo Central Catholic, one of the best teams in that region too, but just not enough. That was a really good squad, but hey, that's an extra game that he can get under his belt moving into next season. Great effort by him.
Yeah, so those were the best passing performances that we saw and got stats-wise from last week. And we're going to dive now into our second segment, the receiving leaders, the best performances we saw last week. And jumping in at number 10 from Mansfield Senior is Keontez Bradley. Nice evening for him, over 10 yards a catch. And he's another guy paired so well with Amar Davis that makes those Tigers wide receivers so lethal.
Yeah, big plays, like I said, from Duke Reese. Well, Keontez Bradley, one of the main guys with that, 6 catches, 84 yards, no touchdowns, but that doesn't matter when you're a TY Tiger. It's just getting the ball down the field and getting it to whoever can punch it in, and that's what the Tigers have been doing. The Tigers, they got that juice on Friday night. Do they have it again at home? We'll find out.
One of the guys who was Caden Holman's one of his favorite targets, Ethan Hill, coming in at number 9. Obviously, he had one of those scores on Friday night, but as we just mentioned, the Rams bow out as Clear Fork defeated them. At number 8, excuse me, is Caden Cunningham of the Crestview Cougars. He's been a guy who just gets it done on both sides of the ball and did it a lot on offense. Him and Hayden Kuhn have just paired up very nicely, and that's going to have to be a duo to help carry them as they continue to find tougher opponents here in the playoffs.
Yeah, almost 50 yards per catch. That's not a bad night, as well as a touchdown for Caden Cunningham and company. But you get Raymer on the offensive end running the ball. You have Cunningham receiving on the outside. You even have Raymer out there as well as a receiver. It's really been up and coming the last couple of weeks. But that Crestview offense, they just need to continue to do things like this, be more balanced in the postseason to continue to move on as they get one more home game before going to those neutral sites.
At number 7 is one of the Arrows you saw all season long, paired up in the duo in our receiving leaders. Landon McFrederick had another phenomenal night. That Arrows receiving group, another room in the OCC that's just been loaded with talent all year long, so he comes in at number 7. At number 6 is Bo Landon of the Northmore Golden Knights. Obviously, they had kind of one of those unique Saturday afternoon playoff games.
Only Saturday. It was actually the final first-round football game.
True.
We all know where I was on Saturday and what went on, but Bo Landon had a couple right at the end. With 1 second left in the first half, he had a big 37-yard touchdown catch. And then at the end of the game, too, he mossed a player, had possession. It was mutual possession, but he had it just long enough in the end zone before it was taken away from him. The rule is if it's combined possession, it goes to the offensive player. He had that enough in the end zone, so that was his second touchdown, but over 100 yards receiving for Bo. The young Golden Knight going from the young quarterback as well, so they have a lot of playmakers returning next year. Next time I see you, Bo, I'll shake your hand for that, but a great effort by Bo Landon.
At number 5 is Evan Hill, the other Upper Sandusky Ram, getting things done for them this season. Again, not to keep adding damage to it, but they did fall. But that was a group that did really special things in an N10 conference that wasn't easy and had a pretty loaded competition this season. At number 4 is Billy Klaus from those Calvert Senecas. He had a nice year, was on our top 10 list consistently during the regular season, and another guy averaging well over 10 yards per catch during the playoffs.
Yeah, and he, again, another tough matchup that they had in the first round of the postseason. I believe it was Lima Central Catholic that they had to take on. But they put up big numbers there, just couldn't get the job done in the end. But once again, Calvert, a team we saw opening night, Thursday night of week 1, a very impressive squad. You should be happy with your Senecas up at Tiffin Calvert.
Now to our top 3. At number 3 from the Danville Blue Devils, Caden Colopy.
I know. Some people say it one way, some people say it the other, but it don't matter how they say his last name. He is a playmaker. 4 touchdowns on 7 catches and over 100 yards receiving. As Danville got a big first-round win once again. Hey, that Hillsdale, I cannot wait to get down to Danville. It'll be my first time at Danville with the OH Report squad, so I cannot wait to see what goes on down there for that matchup. It'll be a great one. You do not want to miss it.
At number 2, a guy who racked in a bunch of those receiving yards from Skoog, Milo Bergholder, averaging over 40 yards per catch. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how to comprehend that.
So he had a 90-yard touchdown catch. That helped, but he's a big old tight end. He's not known for his speed, but he was still able to outrun the Upper Sandusky defense and bust his way into the end. You should, if you need to, go back and watch the highlight of the game. It was at the beginning of the fourth quarter. He literally catches it, shakes off one defender, throws another one off, and then gets to the sideline, just outruns everybody with that effort for the 90-yard score. But that boosted him up, 134 yards receiving on 3 catches and that 1 touchdown. I mean, the 90-yard catch alone would have put him at number 9, but that was a heck of an effort, and that's what Clear Fork needs. They're going to need these unsung heroes, these guys that you rarely hear about, to come up with big plays. That's what happens in the playoffs. You get these other guys that come in and contribute as well, you're unstoppable.
And then finally, our top receiving performance last week, even in a losing effort, a guy who definitely is not a quiet name, Jonathan Metzger, the Ashland Arrows. Notable things that I saw about Mr. Metzger, he's now the career receptions leader at Ashland as well as receiving yards leader. And, I mean, that's quite the honor at a school like Ashland.
Yeah, just everything that was close to him, he was able to bring it in. He helped Ashland get into the playoffs after that Week 10 victory. They had a tough schedule this season and a tough matchup, but still able to get 201 yards against Toledo Central Catholic up in Toledo after a 2+ hour drive. That is one heck of a performance, but I'm not, like you said, I am not surprised just the way that he has been able to make plays game in and game out for the last 4 years. 3 or 4 years. It's been just awesome watching him. It's been a pleasure watching him as well make just moss catches week in and week out.
Yeah, he'll definitely be a guy getting some good looks for some college programs, so we'll be excited to see what is in store for his future. And finally, now to the people we can never forget about. The Bell Cows, the rushing performances that you need to know about from last week. Coming in at number 10, at no surprise, a constant guy on our list, Addison Raymer. He's going to be very instrumental to their playoff run. We've talked about him all year long, and I heard they struggled a little bit from Garrett and Storm. They talked about it, but
it's the
numbers
playoffs.
Don't lie.
It's the playoffs, though. Teams are going to give you their best. Their defense is legit. They shut out a playoff team. It doesn't matter where you're at. You saw that with Columbus Academy and Centerburg. Columbus Academy is a 13 seed, comes in and completely just dominates Centerburg. It still hurts me to say that, but it doesn't matter. You get your best test from anybody that makes the postseason. And for Addison Raymer, now there's 27 teams that made the postseason that we cover in our stat leaders. So you need at least 100 yards to get there. So that's saying you're one of the 10 best rushers out of 27 teams, and 100 yards in a postseason game, that is pretty darn impressive.
It is, and another guy that's certainly impressive, the dual threat quarterback, Matt Sprain from Loudonville, finding his way onto our rushing list as well. A small 105 yards on the ground for him, and that's going to be a big part of round 2. Obviously, competition getting tougher each week. And a team that we're also excited to see that advance into the postseason, those Hillsdale Falcons, and you're better with his last name.
Jake Haverstock.
Yes.
Jake Haverstock, he's another one of those dual threat quarterbacks. He has a lot of yards rushing. I think he broke into our top 10.
He did
a couple times during the season as well, but 2 touchdowns. He can also throw the ball through the air, as we saw against Lucas, 2 touchdown passes. But once again, they're heading down to Danville, and it works out this way, which I just love how just storylines work this way. The winner of that Danville game, Hillsdale game, could get Lucas if Lucas gets another victory.
It just all works out that way sometimes.
In the regional semifinals, so that'll be something worth it. But the Hillsdale Falcons, they're playing good football at the right time, and he is one of the main reasons why they are doing so.
That's for sure. And at number 7, a guy that kind of declined a little bit at the end of the regular season, but had a huge monstrous performance, along with a teammate who you may see coming on later, Ben Berger of St. Paul. He was another guy consistently on this list this season for the Flyers. They have a nice 1-2 punch with him and another guy you'll see here in a little bit. But until then, at number 6, Matt Kleinard of Colonel Crawford. I got to see him last week. Him and Micah Thomas were kind of that 1-2 punch, but great night for Matt. He's been doing it all year long for him. He's more of their power back, but he's a guy, he just wants to run you over.
You think he's chomping at the bit for this game on Friday night?
I think so.
The rematch, Crawford versus Carey. I know you'll be there with the radio crew. I'm jealous, man. I mean, I cannot wait to get down to Danville, Hillsdale, but Carey Crawford Part 2, that's got to be the marquee matchup in all of Division 6 after what we saw the 7-3 game before. And now these two teams have been able to feel each other out in that first game. Are we going to have another 7-3 game, or is this going to be a little bit more scoring because of the work of Kleinard? That's my question to you. I'm actually asking you a question, even though it wasn't in the form of a question.
I think it could come down to defense again, but I think probably maybe both teams, Micah, I talked to him last week, said they're not really going to prepare any different. I think they were happy with last time despite the loss, so I'm very excited to see what happens in that one.
And also, Carey fans, you did have players put up numbers. It's just you're so balanced that nobody's putting up a huge number. Trust me, I put your numbers down all season. It's just that, balance, kind of like Lucas. But will we see a Lucas? Will we see a Lucas player in this rush? I don't know, but we'll have to find out because it's another team. You're balanced. You're still good. It's just you're so balanced that nobody's getting the love, which I think is good. That means you're a team. You don't care who gets the ball, right? That's a cool thing. That's why Carey is undefeated in the last 300 games or what. I don't know what it is. It just seems like forever.
Well, and coming in at number 5 is a guy who shared the love with a teammate in our rushing category all season long. Garrett George had a monstrous night, almost 200 yards rushing for Mount Gilead. And, their quarterback, Matt Bland, they were very close in every statistic in rushing all regular season. So Garrett George finding his way onto our playoff list. At number 4, a guy who honestly really wasn't on our regular season rushing list, but he's really been hitting his stride as late as well. Powie Alt from Clear Fork, been really having some great performances here late in the season, and that's going to be very instrumental for them to take some of that pressure off of Victor. But diving into our top 3 from St. Paul, Quincy Krabs.
There he is. There's the quote. I said quote. What's up with me and W's with R? I don't know. Anyway, the crab walk up there, 218. So let's see, 350 yards between him and Berger. That's just a ho-hum night for St. Paul, isn't it? But they're going on the road as a 5 seed. They're going to the 4 seed this week. I think it's Southern they're going to take on. But they're going to need another big rushing attack if they want to do so. But, Krabs and Berger, 2 best duo names, I think, out there. I guess we could just call them the SpongeBob line, right? Yeah. The SpongeBob backfield or something like that. But, hey, congratulations to both of you for continually being great.
At number 2 is a guy that didn't really have much of an opportunity during the regular season dealing with injury to find our way onto his list. We know he probably would have been had he not dealt with those. But Max Lauer, even in the losing effort, had a huge day. Obviously, you saw it. And I think, probably wanted to go out and kind of leave his last mark as a Golden Knight on the gridiron.
Actually saw him on the sidelines after his first touchdown. So it's 14-0 Belair. He gets 2 big runs that takes 50 yards and a touchdown right then. I look at him and he says, I'm taking this game over. Yeah. And he did so much that even Belair coaches are still talking about him now. I mean, he's what an effort that Max put up in his final football game. With this and his 6 games rushing that he had, he would be in our top 10.
Yeah.
That's how great of a running back Maxton Lauer has been the last 3 years for the Golden Knights, and what a way to finish your season off, young man. Congratulations on another successful year, and it's funny now, he's going to be even more healthy for basketball, which should put fear into the eyes of some other KMAC teams, because he's used to getting 300-plus carries. Now he's only got about 150, 200. Yeah, so we'll find out. But great effort, Max Lauer. But number one, finally, they've broken on, Hayden.
Yeah, a guy who he's going to need to give his legs some rest at the end of the year, too. Logan Toms of the Lucas Cubs, almost 300 yards on 25.
It's about time. Welcome to the top 10, Lucas. Let's go. Let's go.
That's a touchdown every 5 carries for Logan, and obviously it's not a surprise if you know what the Lucas offense is, but still, what an amazing performance for him. It's been an up and down season for Lucas, but they're one of those teams that they'll show up, play anyone, anywhere, so even when you have doubts, it's hard to count out that Cubs team, and they're just proving why.
Well, they went to Toronto. That's another team in the Ohio Valley that I know about. Toronto is a team that East Knox beat a couple years ago. They came up here. But on the news station down there out of Steubenville, Brian and I were watching this after the game before the Pigskin, but even they mentioned Lucas, a 4-1 team, but they have one of the toughest schedules in all of Ohio. So, yes, they may be 4-6, but how many games did Lucas – well, I think all of them.
Tough opponents.
They were in every game in the fourth quarter. Just a couple things didn't go their way for the first time, I think, in 8 years. But nonetheless, this is what Lucas does. RPO. Run people over. Run that power. And if they can continue to do that, we may very well see that matchup in a regional semi between Lucas, either the rematch between Lucas and Hillsdale or an old school rivalry rematch with Danville and Lucas. But these Cubs, do not sleep on the Cubs because of their record. I'm telling you that right now, because this is what they do, and they showed it on Friday night, what those players were able to do.
Well, there you have it. Playoff stat leaders.
Playoffs.
Excited to bring that to you, and like Travis mentioned earlier in the episode, next week we'll do the same thing one final time. It won't be any carryover from this week.
Still got a lot of teams.
Yeah, it'll be fresh stats next week. So, as always, we want to give a huge thanks to our sponsor, Spitzer Motors of Mansfield. Go check them out. Let them know Travis and I sent you, and yeah, go show them some love. So, I'm Hayden. He's Travis, and we'll see you next week on Playoff Stat Leaders.
Later.